Royal Rumble was yesterday. It ended way too late in the night for me to try to do this last night. So here I am now. I've got my handy dandy notebook, and that's terrible. I'm never making another Blue's Clues joke so long as I do this. Anyway, I've got my notebook here because it was a lot happened, and I don't know about y'all, but my memory was not gonna, I wasn't gonna remember to talk about everything I wanted to talk about. So overall, Royal Rumble was great. I mean, maybe not all time great, but this was a really good show. This is one of the better pay-per-views since last WrestleMania. It should be, if you think about it. I mean, that's not exactly like giving them a pat on the back or something, but at the very least, it was all it was cracked up to be, I think. I always get really excited for Royal Rumble. That's one of the pay-per-views I think that a lot of people who don't even always keep track of what's going on will find some friend with the network or something like that and try to watch, because it's Royal freaking Rumble, right? So so in this video, I'm going to break down the matches that weren't Royal Rumble matches, because those matches, I think, well, I know, I'm going to give them their own video. Not each. We're going to talk about the men's and women's Royal Rumble together in the next video. So to start off with, I'm not going to talk about any of the matches that occurred on the pre-show. And the reason for that is I didn't think any of them were all that great, with the exception of the one highlight for me, I guess, really, was Shinsuke got his belt back by way of shenanigans. Big surprise, right? Hopefully, at least this time, we see Shinsuke and the belt on TV a little bit more than we did the last time, during his reign the last time. They made a comment during the match. The announcers did. I can't remember which one it was. I think it. Yeah, I can't remember who said it. Said something about Shinsuke defended his title as much as he was contractually obligated to. And while that may be the case, I don't think it earned him any heel heat. I think it earned the company heel heat, if anything, because people weren't sitting around going, oh, Shinsuke doesn't want to defend his belt, and talking about it like it was somehow Shinsuke's decision. People were talking about it like, why in the world isn't the WWE putting Shinsuke Nakamura, one of their better talents, who happens to be holding a belt, on a mid-card belt, on television? That's how people were talking. There was not a whole lot of, oh, Shinsuke is a bad guy because he doesn't want to defend his title. Like somebody, I think it might have been Graves, said that Shinsuke doesn't have to be a fighting champion, as though we were all sitting around blaming Shinsuke for not having seen that title in months, since Jeff Hardy was wearing it. So I gave that match, a little bit of consideration, mostly just because something kind of notable happened. Not to say that nothing notable happened in the other ones. They weren't altogether snooze matches. It's just they were pre-show matches, and they didn't really. We'll see how much they matter. So the first match of the night, Asuka and Becky. I think that they did the right thing in keeping the belt on Asuka, but they did the wrong thing in having Becky tap. Becky shouldn't have tapped. She's way too hot right now to be losing matches conventionally. I think we would have been a lot better off had Charlotte Flair come out and interfered with that match. And then Becky got her revenge, just like she did ultimately, right? I mean, it wasn't revenge in this scenario, but it was Becky and Charlotte at the end of the Royal Rumble. We'll talk about that in the Royal Rumble video, but it is kind of related to this match a little bit, so it's going to get mentioned. They still could have ended the Rumble with Becky and Charlotte in the ring together, and it would have been a lot better even had Charlotte ruined Becky's match earlier in the night. I think that's better for the overall story and the overall power of Becky's character and our perception of her character for her to not tap or get pinned, for there to have not been a clean end to that match, I think would have been the right decision. The highlight of the match to me, Becky and Asuka were trading pin and submission predicaments over and over toward the end of the match. That was the highlight of the match. Altogether, 3 stars. 2.5 is what I consider to be good. And then anything lower than that is not. It was a match that didn't deliver to the expectations one would have, either from the situation or the 2 people in the ring. That's the way I'm scoring these matches. I know 2.5 out of 5 is only 50%, but that leaves a lot of room for excellence, right? So for me, this match was a 3. It was good. It could have been better, and I would have given it a higher score had it ended differently. Had it ended with Charlotte interfering in the match, or some sort of way that Becky wasn't, she submitted, but wasn't pinned or submitted cleanly. That would have been a better match for me. It would have made for a better story. It would have made for more drama going forward, and ultimately added to the man persona, I think. So 3 out of 5 for that match for me. The next match was Miz and McMahon versus The Bar. Again, this match didn't really do it for me from like an excitement standpoint, but I think a lot of that has to do with my feelings about The Bar just being kind of boring and not wanting to see them on television. If this was not at Royal Rumble, this would have surely been a match against somebody like the New Day, right? Like, the New Day's Royal Rumble antics are probably the only reasons they aren't holding the SmackDown championships currently. I would venture to say. The New Day are a team that don't necessarily need a belt. Like I've talked about before, there's a lot of people that don't need a belt to sell merchandise and to have fans and to get a good pop and stuff like that when they come on TV and get people watching. The New Day are among them, but I really have a sneaky suspicion that the only reason that they don't have the belt right now as it stands is solely because it's Royal Rumble, and you would rather have Kofi Kingston in the Royal Rumble match and Xavier Woods in the Royal Rumble match than you would in a tag team match that day. Not that they couldn't do both. We've obviously seen that they will do both, but conventionally speaking, one match a night, and I think that's the reason why New Day doesn't have the tag titles, and I think this would have been a better match, ultimately, if they did. I'm looking forward to the feud between Miz and McMahon when they split. That's the best part about them being a tag team for me right now, is that eventually that's going to fall apart. I hope it doesn't fall apart prematurely because somebody gets hurt or something like that. You never know, and you especially never know when you're dealing with Shane McMahon how his health is going to hold up. But I mean, there were, I think, objectively speaking, a lot of good spots in the match. I think if you don't have such harsh feelings about The Bar like I do, this could have been a very entertaining match. Nothing, not an all-time match or anything, but this could have been a lot better if you don't feel the way that I do. That said, 3 out of 5. That's me trying to be objective. I think it was a good but not great match. And, who knows? Maybe I would have given the same exact match a better score if the other team was somebody other than The Bar. Then we have Ronda Rousey and Sasha Banks. I had kind of said, I wouldn't want to say predicted, because it was just kind of spitballing, but I kind of said before Royal Rumble that I had a sneaky suspicion that maybe Ronda was going to lose. I hope I said who was in this match correctly at the beginning. Ronda Rousey, Sasha Banks. I might have said Becky Lynch by accident. Got the man on the brain. Anyway, so the Rousey-Banks match, I had a suspicion going into it that maybe we would see Rousey lose because we could use to see her fight back. She also is somebody who doesn't need the title to get a big pop, to get people watching. She's not beyond wrestling. She transcends wrestling because of her career in movies, the Olympics, and MMA. You know, she's not hurting for pop, for recognition, for heat. She's not hurting for any of those things. So it could be a good story to see her fight back for that belt and fight to get it back. So I had a feeling that maybe we'd see her lose going in, and she didn't, but it looked like she might for a little bit. There was some great in-ring storytelling with Ronda's arm injury, I think it was, during this match, and the gut-wrench suplex into the Piper's Pit. At the end of the match before the pin was an excellent sequence, and it all harkened back to all the work they'd done on her left arm. I think it's usually their left arm. If you watch WWE, you can notice when they're talking about a specific limb, an arm or a leg, a hand or a foot, they're usually going to mention that it's the left that's being worked on. And I think that's because it's easier for the wrestlers to always remember to go after things on the left side. But you rarely hear on TV, really going after Randy Orton's left or right leg. You rarely will hear that, but left leg, you're going to hear that a lot. So just a side tidbit. But they've done a lot of storytelling within the match of hurting Ronda's left arm, and a lot of storytelling with the way she would be having trouble lifting. She was going for a Piper's Pit at one point in time and couldn't get it, and she was holding the arm afterwards. I really appreciate that stuff. It makes it seem a little bit more real. It gives a little bit more of an excuse to what's going on. You don't just say, oh, she hurt her arm, and then there's no evidence of that in the ring. So this was some good in-ring storytelling. The ending sequence was really good. Really good. Sasha Banks had Ronda in bank statement, and she was using a strap from her uniform to assist her, and the ref was looked like he was trying to stop her, and she was just ignoring it. So there was a lot of high drama within this match in the ring, and I think we all can appreciate that. 4 out of 5. This was a really good match. This was the first really good match of the night. And, it set the stage for a lot of what we saw going forward. The next, normal, conventional match was Daniel Bryan versus AJ Styles for the WWE Championship. And, this was a really good match that I think suffered from where it was placed on the card. This was a really old school, slugfest, very old style wrestling, faster than old style wrestling. And I'm not going to act like there weren't any high flying antics or anything like that, or that AJ Styles didn't do some absolutely new era things. It just, for the most part, was a very, very old style WWE match at a breakneck pace. It was a slugfest. A breakneck pace for ground wrestling, which is always the slowest part of the show, and either you can appreciate it or you can't. I feel that I really can, and this was done really well. This was beautiful. Really, it was so good. It looked like watching guys rolling doing jiu-jitsu or something like that. It really did, and it's as much as WWE ever does, right? It was a war of attrition, though. These guys both of them looked battered by the end of it. Both of them looked just worse for the wear. Let's just say that. They both looked like they were suffering through this match. And I saw a lot of people on my Facebook, friends' Facebooks, just things I can see in my social network, people saying they thought it was kind of a boring match. And then this morning, there were people kind of backtracking on that same opinion within those threads about how they, in retrospect, don't think it was a boring match, but after just watching a 60-minute Royal Rumble match, this was a lot to watch. And I gotta say that that's probably a valid criticism for the way that WWE handled this particular match. It should have been the first match, maybe the second. Uh, that's kind of how I feel about it. Um, I think if it opened the show, you wouldn't have had that fatigue of having just watched a 60-minute match. I mean, by then we all kind of need something a little bit light, something maybe we don't have to pay the closest attention to. You hate to say that about any match. They should all be good. But I think WWE knows, and we as fans know, that in a big show like this, we need a match in the middle that is okay to pay 50% attention to, or to get up and walk around a little bit, or check your phone, or text your mom or something. You know what I mean? You need a match for that kind of thing, so you don't feel like you're constantly gonna miss something. And I feel like this was where that match should have been, is in this spot. But instead, we got an excellent championship match, and I wish that it had come earlier. I feel like you would have appreciated it way more, way more. I gotta say, there's a countered suplex, and Styles did like a front flip reverse DDT, and then AJ Styles hit this brain buster that was just ridiculous, and then during a phenomenal forearm attempt, Daniel Bryan did kind of like a kick sort of thing and kicked AJ Styles' arm, his plant arm on the ropes when he's getting up and getting ready to do that on the ropes. He kicked the plant arm right away, and AJ Styles just goes dropping to the mat. I mean, this is fantastic stuff. There was and then Daniel Bryan did a chest kick counter on another phenomenal forearm attempt, and then Styles immediately Pele kicks Daniel Bryan right in the face. This was just, and then Eric Rowan just shows up out of nowhere wearing the Daniel Bryan signature like flannel. So obviously they might be like a little like stable or something going forward. I don't know. Because Styles, after Eric Rowan shows up, hits a Styles clash, but the ref is down. I forgot to mention that the ref got knocked down. I can't even remember how he got knocked down now, but the ref is down. AJ Styles hits a Styles clash, gets a pin that could have gone for at least a 5 count. Then he gets choke slammed by Eric Rowan. There's no ref. The ref sees none of this. Daniel Bryan retains. How is this not a great match? People saying it was boring, I think just because it was long. It was really long, and it was at times a lot of ground wrestling, which we can all admit is the slowest part. But this was like ground wrestling at a breakneck pace and at an expert level. And anytime, I'm no AJ Styles fan, I do like Daniel Bryan. Anytime you get to see two people like this in the ring together at an event like this, where they're not holding anything back, whoa. Man, it's a treat. It's a treat. I give this also a 4 out of 5. This was every bit as good as the Rousey Banks match, maybe even better. But I think I'm still going to stick with a 4 out of 5, and I think we would have given it a better score. I think in a vacuum, it's like a 4.5. But because of its placement, even for me, appreciating it the whole way through, I do understand where the criticism that it was a long match and it was a lot to get through comes from. So now the match I was waiting for all night, and kind of disappointed by ultimately. Just the result. The match was great. Brock Lesnar versus Finn Balor. Finn Balor opens the match in a flurry. First of all, my first thought when he came out, he's not dressed as the Demon, so he's not going to win, right? That was my first thought. But Finn Balor comes out in a flurry, drop kicks, step-up enziguris from outside of the ropes, combo punches. He is just on fire, and Brock Lesnar is beginning to look worse for the wear. But then Brock hits one, I think it was a belly-to-belly or a belly-to-back suplex, belly-to-belly. And he just begins control of the match for a little bit. And eventually, we get to see like Brock is just assaulting Finn Balor outside of the ring. And then Brock goes back into the ring and breaks the count. He could have won by count out. I mean, Brock was interested in this fight. And I guess that's why he handpicked Finn Balor and has said, according to the dirt sheets, that he wants to deliver a different sort of match to fans. That's his goal in all of this. So we should have known, and we did know, that he was going to retain the title, but he wanted a different sort of match. He came out, he looked very interested. He breaks the count when he could have won by count out, and we could have seen that at a lot of pay-per-views. A 5-minute Universal Championship match that ends by count out. Tell me you would have been surprised, because I certainly wouldn't have been. But when he broke the count to go back out and continue beating up on Balor, he's interested. Brock is interested. This is going to be a good match, you know? And he goes to try to put Finn through the announce table, and it backfires, and Brock gets what looks like a gnarly chest injury. For a minute, I actually thought, is this like a real chest injury? And I know I probably say that all the time, because I'm a sucker for believing in some of the things that they do. Not that it's a real fight, but some of the things that look like mistakes look like they could have been real mistakes to me. So the first 3 minutes of this match are just absolutely on fire. There was really good in-match storytelling with Brock's chest injury. It looks like he hurt himself. Finn Balor hits just this sling blade about 2/3 of the way through the match, and you really are starting to believe, between Brock's injury and Brock, after the sling blade, tries to hit an F5 and he can't, probably because of the chest injury, and Finn counters it. There's a near fall. It really looks like maybe Finn Balor is going to be the Universal Champion. Brock rolls out of the ring. Balor flies 3 times over that top rope and crashes into him. It just really looks like maybe we're going to get the win. Maybe. We get a coup de grace. Near fall. And then Brock slips into a Kimura armbar, and it is over. But Brock is angry. He hasn't had a match like that. Roman Reigns was the last person to give him a match like that. And the person before was probably Roman Reigns. This dude, kayfabe here, within the story, has not been tested in this manner, and he is so angry at Vince McMahon for changing his opponent, again, within the story, so angry at Vince McMahon for changing his opponent and putting him in this situation where his belt was almost compromised and his health was almost compromised, and he did not know how to defeat the man in front of him, that he throws the belt at him. This was the complete opposite of the SmackDown Championship match as far as pacing is concerned. I give it just like a 4.25 out of 5. Just a hair better. Just a hair better than the SmackDown Championship match. And again, I think it's only because of placement and pacing. If the SmackDown Championship match came earlier in the night, like I said, like first, I think that might have been the match of the night. And maybe they knew that too, and that's why they didn't. But yeah, that's my reaction to the standard matches at this year's Royal Rumble. I'm really excited to see what happens going forward, and I'm really excited to see what happens going forward with some things related to the Royal Rumble matches, but I'm not going to talk about that until the next video, which should be up like an hour after this one. All right. Thanks, guys. I'll see you soon.